Picture a typical day of yours as a student attending classes in New York City. Think of the sights and sounds, the subway stations, and the shops you are exposed to on your way to and from your classes. Think of the people you see. Whether you even think about them or not, chances are, in passing, you see at least one NYPD officer. As fellow New York City college students, we hope to give you insight into the history of the New York Police Department, the process by which one becomes an NYPD officer, and who is in control of the NYPD and the duties that they have to protect the over 7 million people in this city. The NYPD was created officially in 1845 with the goal of enhancing the quality of life in New York City. Likewise, the New York Police Department had intentions of providing greater safety for the city. It aimed to do so by enforcing the law, preserving peace, reducing fear, and maintaining order, all while working with the community to do so. Prior to this point in time, any of the multiple existing New York City police forces were illegitimate organizations which worked alongside corrupt political bosses to protect them, and they were not organized by any means. For example, this included forces backing Boss Tweed and Tammany Hall, who likely didn't follow laws in protecting these corrupt leaders, doing only what they saw fit. Upon its official creation, the New York Police Department changed its mission from one providing political protection to one that was an actual crime-fighting organization, and it consisted of forces including a night watch, 100 city marshals, 31 constables, and 51 municipal police officers, each performing specific duties. Also during this time period, there were some females employed by the New York Police Department. However, they were not cops, but only jail marshals. In 1857, the larger and better trained Metropolitan Police replaced the municipal police force. As time progressed, the New York Police Department has made changes due to social and technological advancements. For example, in 1896, the New York Police Department introduced its first standard-issue gun, a Colt revolver, and in 1911, the New York Police Department featured its first black officer, Samuel Battle. In 1918, the department began incorporating female officers whose titles were changed to patrolwomen the year following. Similarly, as technology improved in the early 1900s, new units were established, including the Bomb Squad, Emergency Service Unit, and the Motorcycle Squad. Later in the 1900s, the New York Police Department made other changes. In 1953, the Transit Police was included into the New York Police Department to help protect those riding and working on the MTA. Due to the poor economy of the 1970s, however, there was a New York Police Department freeze in hiring. This led to an influx of crime. One could even argue that this played into the higher crime rates of the 1980s as well. Come the 1990s, however, the New York Police Department reformed and the city began to see a reduction in crime. Along with this crime reduction, the New York Police Department also merged with traffic control officers in 1996, and New York City public schools began to feature NYPD officers in 1998 as part of a specific program to protect New York City's youth and students. Sadly, many of New York's finest were lost in the line of duty on September 11, 2001. The death toll of NYPD officers who passed away the day of the attacks totals 23, but that's not to mention more officers who are suffering the consequences of the attacks to this day. Today, the New York Police Department has 34,000 uniformed officers working throughout the city and the boroughs, and it has 51,000 employees overall. These workers include those in administration and those who work to train new recruits in academies and elsewhere. Unfortunately, in recent years, too, the The police department has been surrounded with much controversy regarding police violence, surrounding cases often in respects to race, as well as officers being killed in the line of duty, notably including officers such as Brian Moore and Rafael Ramos.
So now that you've learned about the history of the New York Police Department, we'll go over the steps of how one actually becomes an NYPD officer, including the procedures in these steps as well as some problems that may arise which may disqualify an applicant. The first step towards becoming an NYPD officer is to take a written civil service exam. The Department of Citywide Administrative Services administers these exams and grades them as well. The DCAS makes a list of all the names who passed and gives it to the NYPD. After the NYPD is provided with this list, the Applicant Processing Division then begins the selection process. The Applicant Processing Division performs thorough research on potential candidates, including background checks. Once this is complete, only the most qualified applicants will be accepted. The second step is the medical evaluation. The better-known procedure that happens here is a drug and alcohol test, so the NYPD can only include healthy applicants. Other things that happen during this step include fingerprinting, documenting that you've completed high school and had at least 2 years of higher education or military service, and a simple character assessment. Problems that may arise here are failing the medical exam or revealing negative character issues an applicant may have. The third step is the character investigation. This procedure includes a meeting with an investigator, reviewing the application booklet, supplying documents, and addressing problems or discrepancies. The only problem that may arise here is disqualification due to negative character issues. The fourth step is the written psychological exam. This is pretty straightforward. It involves taking a multiple choice exam with many questions. The only problem that arises here is if a discrepancy is found in your answers, resulting in failure of the test. The fifth step is the oral psychological exam. Also pretty straightforward. Applicants are asked questions about the written exam as well as about themselves. Similar to the written exam, the problem that may arise here is if a discrepancy is found in your answers, resulting in failure of the test. The sixth step is the Job Standard Test, or the JST. The JST is a physical exam test that candidates must complete in under 4 minutes and 28 seconds in order to determine if they are fit enough to become an officer. The only problem that may arise here is if the applicant fails any area. The seventh and final step is the pre-hire interview. This is primarily just a follow-up to the previous steps, including updates on the character investigation. A pre-medical exam is also conducted here. The problems that may arise here include medical or character problems, which recently occurred or were not previously reported. If all goes well, you will be hired and put into the academy for training. The police academy is where new police recruits are brought in to receive their training. It involves a 6-month course where recruits learn the academics law enforcement officers are required to know. Along with academic knowledge, police recruits undergo tactical training which involve learning how to handle a firearm, as well as driving training in case of emergencies. Throughout their time at the academy, recruits will have to take exams on the material that is taught. Once this is over, the recruits that pass the academy graduate and become full-fledged members of New York's finest.
After seeing how one becomes a New York City police officer, it is important to find out the organization and structure of the NYPD, as well as find out who is the administration and who leads all these men who are willing to join New York City's finest. The police department has a hierarchical structure similar to many other organizations of the sort. At the top is the Commissioner of the New York Police Department, who is currently William Bratton. The Commissioner is appointed by the Mayor directly, which is one of the major responsibilities of the Mayor since keeping the citizens of the city safe is one of his main priorities. Commissioner Bratton was appointed by the current Mayor, Bill de Blasio. Commissioner Bratton is responsible for over 34,000 police officers, provides the entire force with direction and leadership. The commissioner does not necessarily have to be a sworn-in officer, but can be a civilian that the mayor's determined is qualified to lead the department. The commissioner is responsible for picking the leadership and administration that's below him, and that starts with the first deputy commissioner, who is currently Benjamin Tucker. He was appointed in November of 2014 and is a Brooklyn native who began with the New York Police Department in 1969. The first deputy is supposed to act as the commissioner's right-hand man who helps him carry out his planned direction and helps lead the thousands of officers under them. After the commissioner and first deputy, there are 19 deputy commissioners who are in charge of various specialties. One of the most important deputy commissioners is Joseph Resnick, who's the deputy in charge of internal affairs, where they have many important investigations in the legitimacy of police behavior and have to look into reports of corruption and misuse of conduct. These commissioners are in charge of a wide variety of departments that range from Neldra Ziegler, who's in charge of the Office of Equal Opportunity, to Kevin Richardson, who leads the Intelligence and Counterterrorism Department that was started in 2002, right after September 11th attacks. A lot of these deputies' responsibilities have to do with either the employment process and how the officers are treated once they are in the police force, or to do with collaborative efforts across different bureaus of the NYPD to work in unison towards one common goal. Similarly to the commissioner and first deputy, the deputy commissioners do not necessarily have to be sworn-in officers, but could be civilians that were picked for the job by the commissioner. The highest-ranking uniformed officer is the chief of department, who is currently James O'Neill, and he is in charge of supervising all uniformed officers, as well as the lead official responsible for operations in the New York Police Department. Underneath the chief of department are the chiefs that are in charge of specific bureaus of the police department. There are 10 bureaus in total, and they range from the Detectives Bureau, led by Chief Robert Boyce, to the Community Affairs Bureau, led by Joanne Jaffe. The other 8 bureaus include things like Transportation and Transit, Patrol Services, and Organized Crime Control. After seeing how many people and how much responsibility that Commissioner Bratton is responsible for, it is reasonable to ask why the mayor put so much trust in one man. That is because of his experience and the fact that in 2013, when he was appointed, he was returning to New York City after working here for many years. He began his career as a Boston police officer before quickly rising up the ranks and getting recognition for outstanding performance. The New York City Police Department recognized his achievement and wanted him for their own. They hired him as the chief of New York City Transit Police in 1990. Then in 1994, Mayor Giuliani appointed him the commissioner of the New York Police Department. Together they helped fight New York City of their citywide crime problem. His incorporation of broken windows theory, which states that by fighting small crimes like public intoxication and vandalism, you create order and leads to a safer civilization. And also by starting to use computers to track data on criminals and crimes, they were able to decrease the crime rate in New York City. In 1996, he resigned as the New York Police Department Commissioner and moved out to Los Angeles, where he became the Commissioner in 2002. He worked as the LAPD Commissioner for 7 years before eventually returning to New York City in 2013, when he was once again appointed Commissioner by Mayor de Blasio.
Every day we are in the presence of NYPD officers and patrolmen, and yet they are an institution that many people do not know a lot about the inner workings of, nor about history, and tend to mostly see in the newspaper in some controversy. We hope that our video has helped you to better understand this institution, from its history to the way its officers are trained and selected, to how it is run, and that you might be able to have a better informed mindset on the NYPD going forwards.